Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling. What if a single message could tilt a nation's conscience? A former soldier speaks, names a key figure, and then silence. Tonight, we follow the digital footprints of courage and fear, of remembrance and resistance. Is this the story of one activist, or a mirror held up to power? Stay with me. This story matters now because it has grown far beyond the borders of entertainment. Menglong's name no longer sits solely on posters and credit rolls. It has become a quiet shorthand for honesty, for the right to ask difficult questions, and for the dignity owed to every life. In a season when posts vanish without warning and accounts fall silent mid-sentence, people turn to one another to hold the narrative together, archiving screenshots, comparing timestamps, keeping a living record when permanence cannot be guaranteed. That persistence is not about fueling rumors. It is about safeguarding space for measured inquiry, compassion, and accountability. When an activist's messages flicker and fade, the gap left behind is not just informational. It is human. It reminds us that behind every headline are families, colleagues, fans, and strangers who need clarity to grieve well. This matters because a fair society depends on our ability to examine claims with patience and care, to separate feeling from fact without losing our humanity. It matters because memory, tended responsibly, becomes a lantern, small, steady, and shared, guiding us through uncertainty without surrendering to anger or despair. When we gently trace the timeline step by step, the story becomes less like a thriller and more like a quiet, human record of courage and risk. First comes the message in which the activist reports having named a single, key person. It appears, rattles a corner of the internet, and is then removed. Yet fragments survive in memories, mirrored screenshots, and hushed conversations. Soon after, he leaves a warning. If he falls silent, or if his words appear distorted, it will mean something has happened to him. That line hangs in the air like a promise and a premonition at once. Days pass, accounts vanish. Then, unexpectedly, he returns with an image of his military ID and a reflection on balance between state and army, duty and restraint, almost as if he is reminding himself and others who he once vowed to be. Finally, there is the location pin at the place tied to Yu's last moments, accompanied by a short assurance that he did not come alone and felt safe enough to speak. After that, only silence, laid out calmly without drama. This sequence is not a spectacle, but a map of one person's attempt to honor conscience in a tightening space. For many people watching from different countries and cultures, the emotions did not arrive in neat stages. They rose and fell like waves. At first there was the sharp jolt of surprise, that instinctive intake of breath when you realize someone who dared to speak may now be in danger. Shock soon tangled with sadness, not only for Menglong, whose name has become a symbol of a life cut short, but also for the activist whose words now hang in the air without an answer. As posts disappeared and accounts went dark, a quieter feeling settled in. A mixture of helplessness and quiet anger at the sense that honest questions might be unwelcome. Yet alongside this frustration, another emotion began to grow. People who had never met each other started to feel connected by a shared desire for fairness and clarity. They translated, archived, and commented not to chase drama but to refuse indifference. For some, the story stirred fear. For others, it lit a small flame of determination. Above all, there was a deep, lingering tenderness, a wish that those at the center of this story might be safe, and that, one day, a calm and truthful account would be possible. If we want this story to mean something more than outrage that flares and fades, we have to be willing to look at it through more than one lens. There is the civic lens, where people see not just an actor and an activist, but a test of how a society treats questions, doubt, and conscience. From this angle, the focus is less on scandal and more on the simple hope that institutions and citizens can meet each other with honesty. Then there is the lens of media literacy, the quiet discipline of asking, what do we really know? What is assumption? What is emotion? What is fact? It invites us to notice how quickly unverified claims can travel, and to choose patience over impulse, even when our hearts are stirred. Finally, there is the cultural lens. Viewers in Seoul, New York, Bangkok, Tokyo, Paris, or Jakarta bring their own histories of protest, silence, and change. What feels familiar to one audience may feel shocking to another. When we listen to each other across those differences, the story stops being a closed echo chamber and becomes a shared reflection. In that space, we can care deeply without closing our minds. If this story has moved us, the most meaningful response is not to sink deeper into fear or speculation, but to choose ways of participating that are calm, creative, and constructive. Instead of only sharing dramatic headlines, we can help build a clearer, kinder record together. Noting dates, distinguishing between what has been confirmed and what is still uncertain, and being honest about when we are simply expressing how we feel. Viewers who enjoy research can quietly maintain community timelines, translation threads, or small archives that respect privacy while preserving context, so that important questions are not lost in the noise of the next trend. Others might respond through art, music, writing, or gentle tributes that honor values like courage and integrity, rather than fixating on blame. In comments and conversations, we can set our own standard. No harassment, no naming or attacking individuals without solid evidence, no delight in anyone's suffering. When we see rumors spiraling, we can be the person who says, "Let us wait, let us verify, let us remember these are real human lives." Even simple acts, thanking those who fact-check, sending supportive messages to people who feel afraid to speak, or taking a digital break when it becomes overwhelming, can turn a passive audience into a thoughtful community. In choosing participation that heals rather than harms, we quietly prove that stories like this do not only reveal what is broken, they can also bring out the best in us. Long after the last post is deleted and the algorithms move on, what remains is memory, and it often works more quietly than we expect. It lives in the way someone pauses when they hear Menglong's name, in the small decision to light a candle, draw a picture, write a song, or simply tell a friend, "There was a story that touched me once." It lives in the way people remember an activist's courage, not as a perfect legend but as a fragile, real attempt to follow his conscience in difficult circumstances. These are not actions that trend or go viral. They rarely appear in statistics. Yet they shape how a generation understands words like justice, loyalty, and truth. When official narratives feel incomplete, memory becomes a kind of personal archive, a place where individuals store their own sense of what felt important, painful, or beautiful. It can soften anger into resolve, turn helplessness into a gentle promise that a life will not be reduced to a rumor or a headline. At the same time, memory needs care. It can be distorted by fear or excitement if we are not attentive. That is why telling these stories thoughtfully matters, naming what we do not know, as well as what we feel. In doing so, we allow memory to become not a weapon, but a lantern passed from hand to hand. Its light is modest, but it is shared, and it reminds us that even in uncertainty, we can choose to remember with kindness and clarity. On this channel, we want to be very clear about the ground we stand on. We are not a court, we are not investigators, and we are not here to hand down verdicts on anyone. We are storytellers and listeners, trying to hold space for questions that many people around the world are already asking. When we talk about Menglong, or about the activist who spoke up and then seemed to fall silent, we do so with a deep awareness that there are real families, colleagues, and communities behind every name. We will always distinguish between what has been reported, what has been alleged, and what has been personally felt. When something is unverified, we will say so. When official information exists, we will include it, even if it does not answer everything. Our aim is not to fuel anger, but to encourage careful attention and empathy. We believe it is possible to care about transparency without attacking individuals, and to value accountability without abandoning kindness. If new, reliable sources appear in the future, we are willing to revise our understanding and update what we share. In that sense, this channel is a work in progress, just like the discussions happening in many homes and group chats across the world. We invite you to walk that line with us. Curious but fair, emotionally engaged but responsible, willing to remember that behind every story are people who deserve both truth and respect. Some stories are not solved in a day, but how we carry them calmly, thoughtfully, and together may be the clearest measure of who we are. If one voice fades, let us answer with care, not with noise, with truth-seeking, not with rumors. with dignity, not with rage. If you found this thoughtful and respectful, please subscribe to Update X24H and turn on notifications. We'll keep curating balanced, well-sourced updates as they arise. Comment in English or your native language with a constructive thought. What would a fair, transparent process look like in your country? Share this video only if you commit to responsible discussion. Thank you for watching, for caring, and for keeping conversations human. We'll see you in the next episode.